This Week Live. It's DJ Anthony. I'm your host. And look, is the hustle culture killing you? Magnus back from vacay looking fab, man. You're looking fab. So, by the way, you've probably seen more of our country than I have. And I was born and raised here, and you weren't. You're probably more American than I am. People,
But I think that's like it's interesting that you mentioned that. I think it's like the pro and the con of the United States is that a lot of people just get stuck in their hometown.
Yeah.
And then you have other people that are constantly moving around. They're trying to visit all. I was talking to a lady earlier today on my dog walk, and she's been to 49 out of the 50 states. Alaska is the only state that she hasn't been in. So I was impressed by that. But the thing what a lot of people kind of misses out is that this country is tremendously changing throughout and very different, and like especially nature and even culture changes up depending on where you're at.
Of course, right.
People usually get like a lot of people that visit is usually you get East Coast, West Coast, and you don't go to a lot of the states in between. But yeah, no, beautiful. Like we went through like Nevada, Utah, and up to Wyoming and South Dakota. So
cool.
we did a couple of check marks there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I grew up in the New York City area. I could literally, like, the Statue of Liberty is, I don't know, maybe on a map 4 or 5 miles from my house. Yeah. And people will be like, oh, I'm visiting the Statue of Liberty from like overseas. I'm like, where's the Statue of Liberty? Where's that? And I grew up here. Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of sad because when you're growing up anywhere, I'm sure the same thing for Paris or, wherever, right? I mean, South America, Europe, Asia, when you're in those cities, you grew up in those cities, it's not as tantalizing. It's like, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, I live right across the street. I'm not going to go, so it's life.
100%. I know that I was the same when I was like living in Stockholm, is that you know that it's always there. So I'll do it next weekend. Oh no, I'll wait until my friends come in visit. So usually like you see it when you're growing up, like when you go to like to school or something like that goes like an outing, we're going to like a museum or visit the royal castle or the Vasa ship, which is kind of a unique thing. And then you skip out on it. But once you actually start basically see your hometown from a tourist eyes, it's quite entertaining and it actually could spark like really new like respect and a feeling for where you're living.
Yeah, it's like a kid. It's like watching a child open up a Christmas gift. It's like what the gift is. You gave it to them, but it's like, wow, you live vicariously through their joy.
Yeah.
But all right, man. No, good to have you back. So okay, let's. It's funny because I was thinking about this, and I know you have your own business and your own service, and you're a very hard worker, very accomplished person in your own right, and so am I. And I've been hearing for a long time now, right? You got to hustle, you got to get out there, you got to want it, you got to make money. And talking about America, forget it, right? It's like, if you're not a hustler, if you're not working 50 hours a day, you're a loser. You got to hustle. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, bro, is this, and I own multiple businesses. No one's going to ever accuse me of being lazy, but it's just like, I've been telling myself lately, I need to de-hustle. Like I need to calm the hell down. And guess, my new phrase is, I like money. I don't love it. Like the hustle culture, in my opinion, is misguided. I think generally speaking, it's wrong. Of course, you have to pay bills. You have to work hard, but we forget to rest. Like even a NASCAR race car needs a pit stop. We need a day to rest. And I'm going to down the road have a rabbi on, and we're going to talk about Sabbath, how important it is to take a day, maybe 2 days, rest. You can't work 20 hours a day. And people glorify it though in America. I don't know, where you grew up, do they glorify hustle culture?
So it's interesting how you say that because like looking at it, like there's usually a saying like you either you work to live or you live to work.
Right.
And that's kind of like a big difference in Europe and the States, I would say. Here it's like, well, you're lucky if you have 2 weeks of vacation. In Sweden, we have 5 weeks of paid vacation, and usually you have to take out 3 weeks of vacation in a row sometime during the year, because basically research says that that's how long it usually takes for you to relax and re-energize and decompress and kind of, it's basically like you go to a with your car, you change battery, you change brakes, you change oil. When you do that, all of a sudden your car starts running better. And that's exactly the same thing. Like you need that break and to be productive. And I think that is kind of the difference between hustling and being productive.
Right.
And people don't see the difference. They just think that if I'm busy, I'm going to be productive. And it's usually the opposite.
Right.
Because if I tell you, Anthony, okay, I want this report to be done within 2 days, you're not going to do it until basically the last couple of hours, and then you're sitting and cranking. And instead of like you've been stressing out for that, instead of saying, okay, you have 8 hours from now to do it. It all depends on like the amount of time you get is usually the amount of time you spend. So So saying that like working like 6 hours or 8 hours, like super productive in a day, instead of sitting around at the office for 12 hours and not doing anything.
Right. And by the way, I always say, I mean, if you don't even have to be religious to know, like, you know, hey, on the seventh day, God rested. I mean, hey, if God needs a break, I need at least double that, you know, if not more. And we're humans. But and by the way, I can hear critics would say this, though. I'm playing devil's advocate against me and you now. Yeah, but Magnus, but Anthony, you know, I have, you know, a lot of bills. I have obligations. I would love to not have to hustle. I would love to just work the 8-hour day. My retort to that is, look, if I get it, you know, if you're, you know, really, really struggling, but most people are not. Most people, I'm not talking about billionaires. I'm talking about middle-class people. Like, what are we hustling for? So what? So I can go on, so I can buy the newest leased car, so I can get the latest iPhone, so I can send my kid. You know, I have friends of mine, you probably see this too. It's like, well, my kid got accepted to this Ivy League college with no financial help, or they can go to a state school full ride. No, a lot of parents would say, no, we're going to take a second mortgage out. We're going to work 90 hours a day to, you know, pay for this Ivy League school. And I would say, in my opinion, that's wrong, because your kid's going to be just fine. Like they're not going to be homeless. They're going to be making a lot of money. Most of my friends, have state school, you know, degrees. They're fine. And you're working for what? Like, you're going to destroy yourself. You're going to destroy your family. It's more important to break bread every day if you can, be around your family or friends, or sleep. You need that. You can't kill yourself. I think we misguide things in America, and college is a hard sell to say, don't work hard for that. I get that. And I went to college. So did you. But my thing, I guess, would be like, more the materialism, you know. Am I working really hard to pay for this expensive suit that I really kind of don't need? Am I working hard for the 19th pair of sneakers? Like, am I working hard to have these things that are, what are we killing ourselves for? What are we hustling for? Like,
but again, you're using money that you don't have to start out with, right?
Well,
and I think that's where it comes down to the consumption society. If people would start not consuming as much and maybe like being satisfied, like not like, okay, I don't need a giant mansion.
By the way, and most Americans buy homes that they just do not need. Go ahead.
No. So you're definitely right. And I mean, I'm sitting kind of in the same situation. We have a bigger house than we actually need, but it comes down to this. Like, I'm so used to like, hey, dude, I can live in a shoebox. You know, like I'm so used to having small quarters and be fine with it. It's like, I have all the space that I need. I don't need 3 extra rooms and a living room that I'm not using anyway. So, and it's the same thing. I don't need the newest iPhone. I don't need to change my lease on the car every other year, something like that. It's fine. I mean, you still have more than 90% of the world anyway to start out with.
Right. Yeah, so it's the gratuitousness, I think, and the little things that add up. You know, do I need to be subscribing to 4, 5, 6 different media channels or outlets or whatever, and all these things? You know, do I need to eat out all the time? I don't know.
It's the same thing. Like looking at cable TV. Like if you buy cable TV, how many of 100 of channels do you have nowadays? And when it comes down to how many are you actually looking at, you might be looking at 5 to 10 of them at the most. You know, and it's like, do you need to buy the whole package just to get a single like channel that you want to watch.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, yeah, I don't have a problem with people that are working hard, and also like some people have to work hard to survive. You know, like they're basically on minimum wage and all that. I get it. Like, you have single parents that are struggling, trying to take care of that. I do understand that they might have work a lot. That's not what I'm criticizing. It's just like I'm criticizing about trying to portray that you have a lifestyle that you can't really afford.
I call it fake rich, you know,
yeah,
like
or 30K millionaires. It's also another like word.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's true. You know, so right, 100%. You know, name brand.
You have a car that is like $200,000, and you're scraping by and living in an apartment. You know,
and you don't even own the car. Yeah,
exactly, and like that you're basically borrowing money, and so now you're in that kind of credit consumption society, and it comes down to this. So we can actually, like, looking at it, you know, like with hustling being up, like you have to work 20 hours, all that. Well, if we're not sleeping enough, you're not going to recover. You're not going to be as productive. Your health is definitely going to start to dwindle. And how effective are you going to be then? Yeah, you might be working, say you're working 70, 80-hour weeks. You might earn a lot of money, but when do you have time to actually spend it? And then you start maybe like consuming things instead. You might actually start going into substance abuse or abusing other things to kind of maintain. So and that's the same thing, like looking at it from training perspective, you're not getting strong by actually training, you're getting strong by recovering from your training. So you need the stimulus, and then you need to recover. And it's the same thing with our brain, and it's the same thing with our economy, everything like that. Stimulate and then recover, stimulate, recover. Like, it's...
Yeah, and nobody's saying, obviously, like you pointed out, and so did I. I get it. And believe me, I grew up American poor. I like to say we really had... if I told you, you would be shocked. I mean, like, we grew up, pretty much without a lot when I was a kid, and so I get it. You know, the struggling and the, you know, having to work. But I'm not talking about that where you're going to be evicted or you're going to be out in the street. I'm talking about most middle class, most Americans, upper class. Like, what are we hustling for? Like, so what? Yeah. You know, even if you're wealthy. That's a relative term, but like, what are you killing yourself for again? So, like, I don't know. You know, it's like it's yeah. And I think
Anthony, you brought up something that also is like wealthy. The thing is also like media is portraying something of wealth, fortune, success that might not be actually your personal view on what success is. What is it? Having your 2.3 kids, having 3 cars, having this house, you know, like that mobile phone, you have a boat, or you might have a summer house, whatever.
Right. I have to send my kids to the private school because, God forbid, they go to the public school. The end of the world will come. I'm a product of private and public schools. I've been to both. Guess what? No. Private
and maybe your kids would actually be better that you were actually home and spending some time with them, and maybe helping them with homework or teaching them other things about life, you know.
100%. And that doesn't, and we're not, and by the way, we're not insinuating that the woman stay home. Maybe the man should stay home, you know, or maybe the woman should stay home, or maybe the man should stay home. Like, you know,
that's the thing though that I'm so used in Sweden. It's like, it doesn't really matter what gender you're at. Like, we have to, both parents have to take out some time for paternity leave. Yeah. So you can't just take, one person is taking it. No, by law, it has to be divided. It doesn't have to be divided 50-50. Right. But both parents have to be with their kids.
Right. Yeah, America's slowly getting to that. We have paternity, leave for some companies, but yeah, obviously with Sweden and other countries, it's more institutionalized. Yeah. But yeah, so my thing is, again, why are we hustling? Why, yeah, why am I killing myself for what? And I might make the argument most of the time in America, it's not for the minimum bare necessities. It's for the, again, luxury car or the luxury vacation or the luxury this or my, triple mocha latte, 2 squirt cappuccino latte, daily habit that, times 30 times 12 is, you're working for these things. So it's, yeah, and again, to each his own. Hey, look, my thing is, I guess, don't complain. This is the life that we're choosing for ourselves. And again, we're not talking about the extremes. Like, yeah, you're living in a tent. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about middle class, upper middle class, the wealthy. Like, what are we killing ourselves for again? So yeah, dude. And you're right. Sabbath, take a break. That's where you gain muscle. That's where you gain peace.
I mean, we need our sleep. And I think that also it's funny how that kind of have definitely, like if you're looking at the fitness and health industry, how it's way more important with like recovery and sleep nowadays. You optimize your sleep. You have to do this because we understand how important that part is of us to be productive, to be healthy, to be good, to be both mentally and emotionally stable and actually strive and feel better. So I always suggest people, like, it's the same thing when I'm talking to like any type of if it's a training client or a nutrition client or both, we always focus a lot on getting that sleep in. Like you can't function on 5 hours of sleep. Like, yes, there are outliers. Yeah, you could be the Rock that is like, well, he could sleep for 4 or 5 hours and he's fine. My dad was pretty much the same thing. My dad usually slept 5 hours and then he was really good at napping. I think I mentioned this before. But that's just a lifestyle that works. But again, like my dad had to pay the price for it. He actually got sick with cancer and things like that and died early. So there's actually a negative side to also trying to just, being up and like, yeah, I understand if you have to work hard for a period, but then you also like, it's always like work hard, play hard, or rest hard. You have to recover from that energy expense.
Right. By the way, and I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, I gotta take the kids to this class and that class, and I gotta go on a run." And I was like, "Dude, like, hey, you do you. It's not my life. Like I said, to each his own." But I've talked to him. I'm like, do the kids have to go to this extra enrichment after school every day, and then you got to take the other kid here, the other kid there? How about they don't, and they just chill, stay home for maybe, like come home and relax, and that would help you, the mother or the father, out, and you're relaxing, and you just, not everything is so overly structured and overly done. We have, this class from 3 to 4, and then 4:15 to 5:15 is another class, and then we got to go here to the religious thing, and it's like, or then we got to go here to the enrichment. It's just like, wow, man. I'm talking to this friend. I'm like, never mind like, what are you doing, man? You're like, you're burning yourself out. You're burning the kids out. Like, it's, less is more oftentimes. I'm not saying don't do things, but man.
Anthony, let's look at like, we have children's sports and things like that. Is it okay that you have like 9-year-olds or whatever they're basically having a strength coach, nutritionist, speed coach, a mental coach? I mean, and you're seeing parents are pouring so much money into it instead of like, hey, actually, why don't you just go out and throw a ball around a little bit with your kid, and also like give your kid chance to train several different things instead and have fun. Always like bring back the fun, because at the end of the day, the kid is going to get burned out before they actually are able to achieve basically what they're able to do. And that's a big problem you see in children's sports, and that they get burned out before they're even teenagers or like early teen years.
And coming from you, you're a former professional athlete. I mean, you're not some Joe Schmo, and you're still an athlete. You're still competing. You still take care of yourself. So coming from you, it means a lot. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, right? Sports are great. You and I both preach it, but it's like, at what cost to the parents' stress level? Where now you're breaking your immune system down. You're not happy. You're stressed. You're running around for what? Again, the hustle culture for what? So it's just like, pace yourself. Sometimes less is more. But in America, it's always about just No, more. So you're throwing up. It's just like, damn, the hustle culture is killing us. And I'm not just talking about the money, but the hustle of the schedule. A lot of the stuff we don't have to do. And no one's going to be an axe murderer if the kids don't get the 17th class of something, whatever.
Yeah. No, but it's the same thing. Like here you see a lot. It's like all or nothing mindset. Either you do it like until you puke, or you're not doing it at all. I mean, it's the same thing like with nutrition. You can't keep. It's hard for people. Like either have to be extreme. I'm eating this keto diet, or
Right.
I'm eating completely just junk food. Like the middle ground is usually where the most things are happening.
Right.
And it's the same thing. I always like trying to talk people like understand the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule can be used in so many ways. But for instance, in nutrition, like do good 80% of the time and you have 20% time of flexibility. It's the same thing with training. Do good 80% of the time and then you have flexibility to goof out and do stupid things,
Right. The balance, right? That rest,
Yeah.
so when people are like, well, you're sleeping. Somebody else is getting it. They're working hard and you're asleep. I'm like, no, if you're sleeping, you're winning, actually. You're getting rest. You're resetting. The guy who's killing themselves getting 2 hours of sleep, they're not going to make it. They're going to burn out. They're going to get hurt. You need the
So again,
sleep.
he might be more successful. He might have more money, but then he passes away when he's 53 out of a heart attack because he's close to 400 pounds. He has zero relationship with his kids that are hating him, and see him as an ATM card.
Yeah. Right. What are we hustling for?
Yeah.
No one's saying don't work hard, but
stepping back and seeing the big picture and having an understanding, you don't have to view and see what your neighbors are having.
Right.
Try focusing on you more and what do you get happy from. Well, me might be like going out and stare at a tree for 2 hours. That might be my joy. Other people might be, okay, I have to mow the lawn, I have to do laundry, I have to do this, and they're actually recovering from that. That's their way of recovering, like being active, but they're doing something else with their mind and their body.
Yeah, listen, I have a lot of Jewish friends and Jewish clients, and I'm always, the older I get, the more amazed and more appreciative I am of their Shabbos, their Sabbath, where when they take off, the conservative Jews or the Orthodox, they don't mess around, bro. I mean, it is done. Like no cell phone. You cannot even turn a light switch on. Now that might sound crazy, but you know what? No, it makes sense because that's how serious it is to be, to rest. And guess what? Last time I checked, no one's gonna. I mean, all my Jewish friends are very, very successful people, but they take the Sabbath serious. And as I get older, I'm like, I think they're onto something.
Yeah.
And meaning no cell phone, no TV. Where I live, a lot of Orthodox and conservative Jews, and I see them walking with their families. What? They're walking with their families? Like they're actually looking at their families? Wow! They're not doing this. Like, no, there's no phones allowed. You can't drive the car. You have to walk everywhere. You have to sit. No television. You have to sit and eat dinner together. And I'm like, as I get older, I'm like, Magus, you see this too, right? You go out with friends. I have and what do? You're out with them, and I'm guilty of this too. And we're on our phones. And I'm like, damn it, man, put this damn phone down. And I'm just going to be like, be in the moment. And so,
So here's the thing that I always do with my phone when I'm actually socializing with other people. I actually put it on mute or actually like do not disturb. Right. So I'm not getting disturbed by the phone. If they walk away at the restroom or something like that, or go order a drink or something like that, yes, I can look at the phone then. But when they're there, I'm trying to have like that interaction. Unless we haven't decided, it's like, hey, let's see if we can go to a movies. Okay, let's go and see where they're at, because then the phone is perfect to like find timing. Right. So if you want to meet up at the new restaurant or whatnot. Yes, I understand it. But when you're actually out with people, trying to keep that in your pocket as much as possible.
Right. And again, it goes back to we're hustling all the time for even micro hustling. I have to find out the latest news every 5 seconds. Oh, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Like, so big shout out to the Shabbat and Sabbath. I mean, it makes sense. The older I get, I'm like, dude, yes, you got to just absolutely one day, if not maybe 2 days. But anyways, right. We're always micro hustling, macro hustle for what? And again.
But it's the same thing. Like, look at teenagers. Like, teenagers have a tendency to sleep a lot. They eat a lot, and they play video games and stuff like that. So a lot, yeah, of course, I mean, with school and everything like that, but those things are actually quite like relaxing and things like that. Of course, and now people are on their phone while they're eating, which I hate. Like, you should actually try to focus and be aware of what you're eating and how you're feeling.
Right.
But anyhow, like, we need to find a more like balance and use common sense or whatnot, like you're saying about that, because like when you get older, you want to be able to enjoy that time. Like, for instance, if you're actually able to retire, that you can actually retire and enjoy that and actually have good health, good relationships, and you know, do things like, and like our health is getting better when we because we're living longer, but our also health is getting worse because of the kind of torture and like whatever, like we're not taking care of ourselves
because of the hustle.
If we're doing that earlier, we're going to be able to enjoy time when we're getting older.
Yeah, and you'll enjoy your life while you're living it too when you're 20 and 30 and 40. You know, again, so this whole hustle thing is, I think, overhyped. I think it's detrimental. Again, no one's saying don't work hard, but we have to think about rest every single day and at least once a week, a big rest, you know. But yeah, anyways, we pace ourselves, but you know, it's just not like that for many people. And I've been doing that. I've been really pacing myself a lot better now. I sometimes will not take certain events or certain jobs or certain accounts because I'm like, you know what, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I'm
100%.
I can't be, I don't care about the latest phone. I don't care about the latest car. Oh, wow, I'm not going to go on vacation this year. Ooh, poor me. Like that's money in my pocket, man. I don't have to
stretch your limit instead.
Right. You know, or, oh, look, I went to a state school. Wow, look at me. I'm homeless. I'm not. Like, you know, I'm doing pretty well. You know, so it's so everything is just, what are we hustling for?
But it's the same thing. You see a lot of billionaires or multimillionaires that are high school dropouts.
Right. No one's saying do that, but to your point, right. I get it. Right.
Yeah, so sometimes like school is not like, sometimes school is not even important. I'm not saying you don't go to college, but maybe you shouldn't go to college unless you really know what you want to
go to trade school, go to the military.
Like going to school and not knowing what you want to do is a complete waste of time and money.
Right. Or it could be something simple. Like I have friends of mine that when Christmas comes around, they put themselves in such debt that it takes them 9 months to pay off the debt from Christmas. I'm like, what are you doing? Now you have to hustle to pay for that Christmas stuff. Or it's the kid's birthday. Instead of giving them, hey, here's a $50 gift or a little bit of cake at home with some friends and family. Nope. Got to blow it. And by the way, I'm in the entertainment business. I mean, I make money on people doing lavish stuff. So it's kind of ironic that I'm the one saying this, but it's just like, and again, if you got the money and it ain't no thing, like, cool, you do you. But if you're going to be, again, hustling for 8 months after the big Christmas, no, man, like, hey, here, you know, last time I checked, it's Jesus' birthday, not yours. So, you know, you give somebody, hey, here's a $20 gift or a little, you know, little toy or something. Like, you know, I think in kids, we put that on ourselves, the parents and the adults, not the kids. So it's just, what are we hustling for? Anyways, we can go on and on about that. But before, I know we're getting short on time here. I want to segue into the lungs. And I don't want to talk about COVID anymore, but you know, we always like to talk about like, what does that body part do? Or what does that food do? So I was like, you know what, the lungs, like, wow, the lungs are, again, miraculous thing that, you know, we have that filters the air for us. It takes out the toxins for us. It obviously gives us life. And so when I thought about how COVID kills people, like before I did some reading about the lungs, I just thought the lungs were like 2 empty cavities and that's it. And the more I read about them, oh no, they're not empty. They've got little sacs, what do they call those sacs? I just had it up here. The alveolus. Yeah. Alveoli. I don't know. Let me see here. What is it called? You know what it is, but I'm trying to sound smart. Okay.
This is like the lungs and that part are so interesting. So why? I mean, it's basically like you have like miniature balloons in it.
Right, thousands of them, right?
Yes, and this helps us to increase the basically the surface area. So how it works is that they're very thin films. So when we draw in our breath, so from the air, actually oxygen gets transported from the airs inside the lung into the bloodstream and binds to our blood cells. So that's how we transport oxygen, and it also helps us get the carbon dioxide out.
Oh, right.
So when people say I need to lose weight and things like that, you know, we're actually like most of the byproduct from burning fat comes out?
Where?
It's for your breath.
Oh, no
Carbon
crap.
dioxide. That's
Wow, that's
where
right.
the carbons in the fat chains or in your carbohydrates, that's where they get removed.
See, man, that's why you got the PhD. Yeah, I mean, so right, and then when we heard about, so how does COVID kill? I guess COVID kills because it or pneumonia can kill too, because I guess those little sacs, those little thousands of balloon sacs fill with fluid, I guess.
Yeah, it's blood. I mean, they're basically blood. So when like for instance ammonia, you start to have like liquid within your lungs. So
Right.
that's why less and less surface, and with less surface, you're transporting less and less oxygen into our blood. So you're basically suffocating yourself.
Right. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're not giving medical advice. We're just talking to friends here. You always consult your healthcare professionals. But okay, right. So the lawyer in me. But I mean, yeah. So that's interesting. So I wonder how, I mean, I know how smoking could affect lung capacity and make COVID more deadly. But
Yeah.
I wonder, how does weight affect?
Same
Because,
thing.
it is a comorbidity being, let's just say weight is.
Yeah.
So I guess it's
So
the fat
So
is.
let's look at the lungs a little bit more. So the surface area, if you take all these little tiny bubbles and you would like basically paint them out to a surface, that would be between like 50 and 70 square meters, which is about 580-ish square foot up to 800 square feet. So it's a fairly big surface. So it's basically the surface of a tennis court, like a single tennis court. So
Right.
it's so like when you're putting everything or half or whatever it is. Yeah, it's quite a lot, and it's actually half. So it's a big area. So for instance, if I all of a sudden, if you and I are playing tennis, and I take away 70% of my side of the court, right? You're gonna have a hard time winning against me, right?
And that taking the 70%, you're talking about extra fat.
No, so what happens is like when you're having issues, like when you're overweight, for instance, your lungs are not growing. You still have to carry out, so you have more body weight. So your body has to like produce getting more oxygen into your tissue. And also when we're talking about inflamed tissue and all that, the oxygen demand is higher and things like that. You have inflammation in it.
So everything's constricted everything is getting constricted in the lung area in the lung because of the excessive weight or inflammation.
It's the same thing. Take a weighted vest, or just take like lie down in bed and put like a heavy bag or something like that on top of it. That's what your lungs have to work with. Like you have to work so much harder to breathe in and out. And with overweight, I mean, this is the same thing. You have issues with you because you're snoring, sleep apnea, things like that. Same thing. Your lungs are not functioning perfectly. Same thing you go into like with the diabetes too and all those things, that your body is already under attack and working overtime already, and your lung capacity is getting worse. Add smoking into that. More and more of your lung tissue is dying. And then if you, like you said, you're catching COVID or any other respiratory diseases.
Inflammation.
Like your lungs are already like not functioning at 100%. They're just getting smaller and smaller and have to work harder and harder.
So those air sacs are not filling, or the oxygen is not being,
you're not. So the oxygen is not transporting in like over into the bloodstream, and the same thing. You're not getting the carbon dioxide.
Everything's getting constricted.
Yes. So like it's horrendous, and that's why COVID hit so hard on people that had either respiratory issues, lung issues, or overweight type, or having like chronically inflamed things like that. With diabetes and all that. Right. So it hit hard. It hit hard on those groups.
I know. I mean, so it's just amazing because I always thought the lungs were just like two open, empty cavities. And the more I read, I was like, oh, damn. Okay. It's not like that. They're like thousands of little grapes almost those alveolus.
The clusters of grapes. I like that. That's basically a little bit like it looks like. Another thing that we should add into this too, like it's interesting that a lot of people nowadays don't even know how to breathe correctly.
Right.
And that adds even more problems into this. So we're chest breathers, meaning that we're not using the diaphragm in like using the full lung capacity. That you're basically breathing with your stomach. when you're pulling a breath in, you should feel like your ribs are kind of expanding outward and your stomach is kind of coming out. So you're actually putting the whole like lungs kind of fill up, and we're getting more air, and we can actually get more oxygen into our blood.
Right.
But if we're constantly walking around and breathing like this,
right,
like a
you're
dog
not
out,
full,
where it's like we're not
right.
filling anything in,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
we
But
breathe
that's where,
about 20,000 times a day. So if we do something wrong 20,000 times a day,
you're gonna learn, right?
It's going to cause problems for our bodies.
And that's where exercise comes in, right? So if we're exercising
Yes.
daily, and no one's saying run a marathon, but if we're exercising daily, your body naturally is going to start to take deeper breaths, and you're going to get more oxygen. The more oxygen you get, the better you feel, because you get more oxygen.
Yep.
But if you're not taking the time to walk or do calisthenics or just get your heartbeat up a little bit, yeah, you're always going to be taking those short breaths. So it's amazing, just some simple walking or some, you know, no one's saying, again, run a marathon, but, or even deep breathing in yoga. I do that every day
Anthony,
now.
so here's the thing, what a lot of people could do, just like learning how to breathe, these things. If you're stressed out, one of the best things to counteract that, deep breathing. So like reducing stress, learning how to breathe, maybe sit down, like meditate for a couple of minutes, just focusing on taking your deep breaths. It's the same thing when you're getting close and into an argument.
Right, deep breath.
If you say like, take a deep breath, or actually go away, it's like, give me a second, like,
right,
I need to take like 10 breaths, relax,
yeah,
get your senses back, actually start like oxygenating more, like you're not going into that adrenaline stint, that you're actually like calming down. Then you can actually have a better sense of logic and actually have a discussion instead of having an argument.
Right. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
So that is important to kind of learn how to use your breathing and your lungs into an advantage. You see a lot of pro athletes are really good at this, you know, that they can calm themselves down. Super. Like, for instance, like the best football players, like how are they able to perform the highest? Because they stay calm and focused.
Right.
And they use their breathing a lot. So they know like,
yeah.
And their bodies are not like, you don't have to run at the red, because your body is more used to working hard, so you can actually reduce and stay focused and get oxygen into it, which we need for energy and all that. So,
and you don't have to be.
Lungs are amazing. That's again, like why I'm so interested in biochemistry and all that. It's because the human body is so unique. Like,
oh my God, it's
like crazy.
I mean, again, not to make it religious, but and I'm not advertising any one religion, but if you don't believe that there's something that like, it is just an awe-inspiring machine, the human body.
Yep.
I always tell people, listen, if you were on a beach and you saw, and we're going to wrap it up now, but if you were on a beach and you saw a chair wash up on that beach, a simple chair, you'd be like, oh, somebody must have made that chair. That chair couldn't have just floated together and put itself together and washed on the beach just by chance. Now, a chair is infinitely less complex than the human body, and yet a lot of people would say, human body, I don't know, it just happens. Really? But you would see a chair wash up on the beach, and you would say someone must have made that chair. But the human body, you're like, nah, it happens. It's just, there's nothing to it. It's just, chance. Really? Like, the human body is such a, I'm preaching to the choir, but I mean, you don't even have to look for miracles. Look in the mirror. That is the miracle. Every second, how the neurons, the electrons, the breath, the lung. I don't know.
But also, and that's something that I want to put, like, don't take it for granted. Like, take care of it. And that's the thing. Like, you need to take care of your body and your mind. Like it's, but that's what I'm saying. Like start seeing it. Like, it's the same thing. We are all made out of stardust, right?
Yeah.
Because like all the atoms in our body has once been in a star or something like that. Yeah. So remember that too. You're unique in your own way.
Right. Yeah, buddy. I mean, now speaking of which, I gotta go. I gotta go out and play tennis. I gotta coach tennis now, and so it's like miserable cold here. I'm like, I gotta go outside. But anyways, yeah, man. No, Magnus, as always, thank you very much. Check him out, 3 Crowns Health at the Gmail. You see, folks, he's got so for nutrition, workout, exercise routines. This guy's the man right here. And Magnus, anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, interesting. Like again, you and I could talk for hours, and it's always fun catching up. And I hope you guys are doing good and having a great week. And we'll talk to you next week again.
Yeah, don't forget, folks. Like and
subscribe.
Come on, do it.
Again, give us feedback if there's something that you find interesting. Like if our like conversations are helpful, or if you want us to take up a specific topic or deep dive into something that we kind of just brush up on. Please get back to us. Yes, email us or give us a comment, and we get back to you. And because we want to engage and have you like feel like you're part of this conversation too.
Yeah, man. No, absolutely. So, and then one of the next shows we'll do, Magnus, I want to talk about how parents and adults push our kids that every single kid's going to be in the NHL, NFL, MLB, NBA. Here we go. So that's another show. But it'd be interesting because you were a former professional athlete, and you still are an athlete, and I am too. So I'm a coach, and blah 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 blah. So that's going to be another show. But we got a bunch of great shows coming up, ladies and gentlemen. So check back in Wellness Week Live. Magnus, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good week. And I'm going to